Productions, LLC.
Broadcasting live from beautiful Zagnif Studios in the heart of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. It is time for this week's episode of Indie and Unsigned, where we bring you tales of the independent entertainer on their way to the big time. Remember who you're listening to today, because you may see them on the big screen or hear them on the radio tomorrow. Hosted by yours truly, the legend in his own mind, the man, the myth, the mad karaoke DJ, Mr. Fingers. And without further ado, let's get into this week's episode.
Indie and Unsigned.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good, beautiful afternoon to you all. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of Indie and Unsigned. I am your host, Mr. Fingers, the mad karaoke DJ, and today it is my pleasure and my honor to have a gentleman that I've known for quite some time by 6 degrees of separation on the show today. And he's going to come on and tell us a lot about everything, because he's a jack of all trades. A nice round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for Mr. Ian Kaine MacGregor. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Good to see you. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has, bro. I mean, think about like a little background on how we met. I believe it may have been before, but the best of my recollection, because I used to drink a lot, was at the old fire station number 3.
That's it. Or Miller's. Was it Miller's then?
No. Well, see what happened.
Yeah.
I started working at there was somebody else working that show back in 2002 when I went to work for that company.
Yeah.
And he broke off and started his own company, but I was his backup guy. And he went to the owner and said, "This is the guy." He went to Harry and he said, "Harry, you want to bring this guy in here? I think he can bring you a good crowd." And Harry, he's like, "Yeah, well, if he does the job and gets it done, we'd like to have him come to. I've seen him do. He's good. He's okay. He's okay."
Yeah.
And so I wound up taking that show from 2002 until whenever he sold it to can't remember the young lady's name. But when he sold it, I think Joe. When he sold it to Joe,
yep.
And then we were there for about another 6 months or so. We stopped doing karaoke, and then she had to change the name and all of that good stuff. And then Harry wound up taking it back over, and it's about a couple of years later, 9 or 10, 10 or 11, 2010 or 11. That was when he brought me back in, because I was working.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I was working at Sully's out in Chantilly on Thursdays then.
Got it.
When Sully's went out of business. And Harry, for a guy that you think is not aware of what's going on around him,
mm-hmm.
Harry's a smart cookie, man. A lot of people underestimate him. Because it wasn't 2 weeks after Sully's went under when I got I hear you don't have the Thursday show. You want to come back through? I was like, yeah, man, I come back through.
Yeah, I love that guy. He's awesome. I knew him for years just through, hanging out around that TT's and Firehouse scene and all that stuff. And my band played there so many times, and at some point I just sort of took up a residency at the end of the bar because I used to drink a lot. So, but then, there was a point where I'm not sure if you just kind of fell off and I guess disappeared over to Sully's. At some point I just stopped hanging out altogether. And so, I was gone for quite a while and went back to see him, I don't know, about a year ago. Good to see he's still there.
Yeah. We were back. We moved to Oklahoma, the family. We all moved out here in 2018. And at that point, I had a residency going at the Fairfax Fair with the karaoke competition. So I came back that following summer, and people knew I was coming. And they're like, "Hey, man, you should come do a show here. You should come do a show here." I was right at Firehouse. And there's no disrespect to any of the other venues I've ever played. It's just that Harry has a gruff exterior, but if Harry likes you, he'll try to take care of you.
Sure.
And I think I was at Firehouse for, we wound up stopping the Tuesday show, and I stayed there until the Thursday show until I left. But he kept that Tuesday show going for 6 months, 7 months, which was about 5 months too long, because it wasn't getting the same support. I think he was trying to compete with Shabine.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think Shabine was having. And man, you just threw in a relic, TT Reynolds. So that I got an idea just about how old you are. Just it's like going to buy alcohol now, and you show them your ID, and they go, "No, that's not right. I see the one on the year or your birth date, so you good."
Yeah, I think you and I are either close or I'm. Who knows? Maybe I'm older than you. Who knows?
I just hit the half century mark in June of last year.
Then we both hit it at the same time.
Okay, all
I
right.
was May 23rd, so I'm right before you.
Oh, a month.
That's
A
right.
month before you, a month before me. Look, man, you've had some milestones since I seen you last. I wanted to get into that, and then we'll get into the music stuff. So
Sure.
you had some good things come about in your personal life since you and I last broke bread together.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. I got married in October this year, if that's what you're referring to.
Hmm.
I think in that time, I've even had a child since the last time I seen you. I think
Oh
so.
man,
My son Grant was born. That was a while back, and then of course, I married my wife Lynn in October this year. So yeah,
very
it's
nice.
been a pretty amazing time, even with COVID.
It has been, man. Because it's funny your Facebook post, like you have, and I don't know if it's just you uh, putting the brand out. You always have that when that look when you posting pictures. Like I'm like, dang, that's
Yeah,
the first time I've seen him smile on social media. That like
that's
Lynn, I
hilarious.
don't know what Lynn, whatever you're
Yeah,
doing, keep
there you
doing it
go.
because
She's watching right now, so she'll
I
be
I've
happy to
seen,
hear that.
yeah, he and I have shared some laughs face to face in the bar, but I don't think I've ever on social media seen him smile and cheese
No,
is
it's
big. So
true.
you must be a good woman, and
Yeah,
congratulations to
absolutely.
you both.
She's
Um,
awesome.
so we want to get into this. So you currently play in like what 17, 18 bands or something like that right now?
Well, thankfully now just two. No, in fact, I would say that the bulk of my time and the focus of my musical life is a band called American Jet Set, and we formed a couple of
I've
years
heard
ago.
of them.
There you go. Yeah, it's a really nice shirt you got on there, man.
Yeah, I know, right?
Um, no, so we formed in 2019, and it was just sort of a time when I was doing some side projects in music. I really was even thinking about getting out of music. And my buddy Jeff, he's the drummer in our band. He had been pestering me for a while to, start a rock and roll band, sort of like 80s hard rock. And I really didn't want to do it for a long time. And then for whatever reason, that last time he hit me up, I was like, you know what, this is it. Let's do it. Let's write some songs. So we wrote and recorded an EP within like a month and a half. Then we found our guitar player and our bass player the next month, and we were playing within about 4 months of starting the band. And it was a crazy roller coaster for that whole year of 2019 because we played with almost every one of our rock and roll heroes
Oh
from the
yeah,
early.
like drop some names, man. Drop some names. I want to hear 'em.
Well, I mean, they're not important to a lot of people, but LA Guns.
Oh yeah, I know
Um,
about LA Guns, man.
yeah.
Remember we
Oh,
together.
yeah. Absolutely. It's Faster Pussycat and all these bands that, we grew up listening to and idolizing. And because those bands were sort of having a resurgence, because rock, in fact, in 2019, the best thing that was going on, and COVID kind of killed it, is that rock was kind of having this resurgence, right? So all these bands that were playing to, 200 seaters 5 years before, they're starting to do like 800 seaters and 2,000 seaters. Like, LA Guns playing 2,000 seaters now. And that's just been unheard of over the last 15, 20 years.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so they were starting to do really, really big shows, and we were joining them. And so we got to be the premier act that was opening for all these bands. So 2019 was an amazing, amazing year for music for me and for our band. We did, we toured the country, went out to LA, and we were planning on a return trip to LA to open for Pretty Boy Floyd at the Whiskey, and then COVID hit, and that got moved around a bunch of times. In fact, it's still on our schedule, but I anticipate it getting moved again. But then through the COVID time, through all of 2020, music kind of was up and down. We were trying to record. We actually ended up recording an EP that still hasn't come out. And then a couple months ago, I decided, I'm gonna start doing something on my own, not to put the band aside, but more to talk about things that I was sort of experiencing because of what was happening in the world. And these were things that I really don't talk about in the music that American Jet Set does. We are decidedly a non-political, non-issues type of band. So Monster became sort of the outlet for this art that I wanted to create around the topical stuff that was happening right now. So that's it, just Monster and American Jet Set for the moment.
Nice, nice. And man, the funny thing is, all that time we talked, I don't think either one of us knew the other one did music on the side.
Right.
It was when I saw you start posting the pictures on social media of the stems when you were in studio.
Yeah.
And then I started hitting you up, and I don't even know at that point if you were doing work for the band, if you were doing work for other people. And then all of a sudden, I saw American Jet Set coming soon with the logo and
Right.
and all of that good stuff. And then the CD hit, and I'm gonna touch on the '80s rock in a minute, but the
Yeah,
CD hit, and every time I looked around, you guys were like, you essentially lived a musician's dream where you went from concept to gigging, and not just any gigs, not just playing someplace where no three people are half paying you attention and maybe getting a bar tab. You guys went from concept to paying gigs, opening up for some notable names in
yeah.
less than a span of 18 months.
Oh,
You
we did all that within months. I mean, with literally just a couple months. So, the good thing for our band is that we all kind of came from bands that had been doing this before, but not in this genre, not since we were teens at least. And I was in a band called 23 Rainy Days that was a pretty big band, and so I had a ton of contacts as a result of that experience that I kind of brought into what we were doing with American Jet Set. So from a promotions point of view, I was talking to the promoters immediately when the band came together and vying for position on these bills. And so we got put, I don't know, opening slot of a 5-band bill in front of, Bang Tango or something. And then we did really well and sold tickets. And then, we moved up a step. And so we did that very quickly. And then promoters were bringing us in for those shows. We ended up being the band. So that kind of peaked when we played with Tom Kiefer of Cinderella at Tally Ho. And that was phenomenal. It was 600.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it was.
Look, I got all the other names you threw out there, but you Cinder, come on, man.
Yeah.
Cinderella?
Oh yeah, it was 600 people in that venue, and it was really cool because, we were kind of building up a confidence about what we were doing live because we go all out live. I mean, it's just a freaking unbelievable time. So we wanted to take it up a notch and get some crowd participation going, and that's a really rough thing when people don't know your music, right? So we have a song called Monsters, actually, funny enough, and it's the closing song that we do. And so we introduced kind of brought, not brought Tom Kiefer on stage, but we introduced the band that was coming up next and had the crowd chanting along to this chorus of this song. And I'm telling you, man, it was it was a moment of a lifetime because, there's not many moments that you can get like that anymore, especially now. So it was a real rock star moment for sure.
I'm sure, bro. Listen, anybody that knows me, like that's like in my inner, not to say that you're not, but
Yeah.
anybody that knows me in my inner circle, or even if you follow my Facebook post, they know my group is Boys to Men. Period. From the minute that Motown Philly hit the airwaves, I have every album. I can tell you who all was a member of the group. Blah, blah.
Sure.
My wife was like, oh, my son will come in and go, Boys to Men, who's that guy? I said, don't wait. And my daughter goes to say something, and my wife will go, nope, wait for it. And then I go, you don't know who Wanye Morris is? What do you mean you don't know who Wanye Morris is? So what you're equating right there would be the same as I would to be playing a venue and opening for Boys to Men and introduce them and have them come out, and then I would drop back and sing the bass part because I don't have the bass anymore. Girl, I'm sorry. Oh my God, I would to be able to do that in front of 300 or 400 people I would never stop talking about it ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten an opportunity to meet them at meet and greets, but
Sure.
wow, that dude, you seriously have lived the life of a rock star in a very, very short amount of time, which although fortunately in your case you're still functioning and don't have any substance. Most rock stars they hit it big and then in 2 years they're breaking up, the band's fighting, and then they show up unsung about 25 years later. So
it's funny though. I talked to my buddy about this, and when you think about it, bands like American Jet Set or others that are like us, because there's a couple bands out there that are doing this at the level we are, and we joke all the time about being lucky to have not made it, because now we're just as happy doing this right now, but we don't have all the pesky problem of all the bills we probably have, because those guys don't make a lot of money. They're struggling to like, look at them now. I mean, there's no, it's not like they're working at a technology company or something. Those guys are struggling because they can't play live anymore. So I'm okay with the way it worked out for me. No, I didn't make it. I had a lot of really, really cool successes in music. 23 Rainy Days played the last tour we did was on the MTV Music Awards tour, so that was awesome. Yeah, it was really cool.
And the more you talk, the more jealous I get of you. You know that, right?
I wouldn't get too jealous, but we did. There were some really cool shows, though. The stuff with MTV was awesome because this is the first experience playing on a stage where there's cameramen everywhere. We had 7 or 8 cameramen on stage. There were 2 or 3 boom mic operators or boom camera operators out in the stands that would just fly right up on your face. So that was a crazy experience. But I'm kind of glad the way it worked out because I've done a lot of things that I've wanted to do, and I didn't have to pay the price for not spending a lifetime avoiding a real career.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't think of any better way to put it where that's concerned. I mean, so what will wind up happening is, even, God forbid, but even if something happens and you never able to get to that level again, I mean, I'm not from Virginia, originally from Georgia, but when I got to Virginia and started hitting the bar scene, there were these band names that I heard all the time. I heard about the Johnny Artist Band. I heard about Andre Fox. I heard about oh God, what's the guy that lives down in Manassas, and Pete Evick. I heard of,
Sure.
the Evicks and the things like that. And then
Well, he plays with Brett Michaels, and he has for
right.
many years. Yeah.
And what was the other band? The guys were from Centerville, and they did the commercial in the Vatican. Sev.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually got to meet.
Now you know how old I am for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember hearing that song and seeing the commercial, and then when I moved to Virginia, I was at a show, and I played music between singers, and I threw on Sev, and they're like, "Dude, what you know about Sev?" And I was like, "I just know they did skateboard tricks in the Vatican."
Right.
He's like, they're from here, right? And I was like, "Get out." Because they were at that point they were doing a show they did a show at TT Reynolds, and I think right at the first part of right before everybody got shut down, did they do a reunion show somewhere in DC?
No
last
idea.
year, something like that.
I don't know. In fact, I don't even know the last time Sev played live at all.
I think it was last year sometime, right before everything shut down, because I had friends from all over the country that were from Northern Virginia that were trekking back to Northern Virginia for this show. It's like 15, 20 people. So I'm assuming it was Sev, because anyway.
The band from back then that I loved was Two Skinny Jays.
Oh man. Are they from or is that
I think they're from New York or something. But they used to travel down here all the time.
Yeah.
To the bayou.
Yeah, I never achieved that level of, I mean, like, you and I were talking before the show, and I'm saying, I wanted to be an entertainer. I just didn't have the confidence to do it. I grew up playing music in church, so that's where I got my piano background from. And I did a gospel EP. It did, I'm 23. I knew nothing about mixing. I did the whole thing on a Yamaha 4-track cassette.
Sure.
With a $99 Casio CTK 1000 keyboard and a Shure SM58. That's it.
So I had the CT 1000.
Yeah, I still remember. Yeah. I still go to YouTube and listen to the demo songs. That's how deep I go with this stuff. But I have been nothing but thoroughly impressed for a man that you and I have never broken bread together, hung out with each other's families. I have been nothing but thoroughly impressed with what you have brought to the table so far. Look forward to hearing more. I say that like we're ending the interview. We're only 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
But I had a question for you, because you seem to be a man of all trades. Like don't you do most of the design work and things of that nature?
Yeah. So my real job, if we want to talk about that, I've spent my career as a designer for most of my time, and now I'm a creative director with a company out of McLean. But yeah, so most of my life has been spent in branding and in advertising. So all of the things that I get out of doing the band are the aesthetics, the aesthetics of everything. I love the branding aspect. I love the promotional aspect of it, and I love the live aesthetic. The way the band looks, the way the band presents itself, the sound, the actual sound of the production, those are all the things that I'm absolutely in love with. And to me, they're all kind of part of the same thing, even though people kind of segment those things in other projects. This guy's going to do this guy's going to do that. I just kind of see it as all one big thing, and I always have. Love
Okay.
it. Yeah.
All right. Well, those of you just joining the live stream, thank you so much for joining season 2, episode 2, Indie and Unsigned. Mr. Fingers, your host. I'm here today with Kaine MacGregor of American Jet Set, and he's got this project coming, this project that just released today, Monster, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. You can check out the chat on the Facebook page under Indie and Unsigned. Feel free to join the chat. My wife is in there, I believe, and she's monitoring the chat. So if you want to chat with her, and Ian's wife is also in there, so you can stop in and say hello. If you want to check out Ian, his www, if I got this right, if I got it wrong, correct me. It's www.wearemonsters.com, and that's where you can go and check out what he's got going on right now with this project and some cool merch. You got more merch? How do you get more merch? And I didn't find out.
I decided this time I'm not actually printing things and sending it to people, though. So this is actually an on-demand thing. So if you go to Teespring, the Teespring store, you can actually order directly from there.
Boom. Okay. Cause see, if I'd have known about that, I'd have been wearing my.
That's it. Well, you got a good one on. That's like the best one you can have. That's the classic one.
Okay. Yeah. This is the one, like, brother. This was in a. I put this in a vacuum bag.
Oh wow.
I have like all of my like I've got t-shirts. I went out and snapped up a bunch of t-shirts when MJ passed, and
Yep.
I've got custom t-shirts I made from some of my karaoke shows and Mr. Fingers branded stuff. I just took all that stuff and I realized, man, some of this stuff's 15, 20 years old. If I don't,
right. Yeah.
it'll be gone. The monster. So it was I was frantic. I mean, like right before we came on, I had on another shirt. I said, oh man, I gotta go get my shirt. And then I couldn't find it. I was in a panic. I was like, oh, vacuum bag. So it's still so fresh and so clean.
Well, I got a couple others. I'll send them to you. We'll touch base on size, and I'll send you a couple that we're kind of phasing out anyway.
2XL, my brother. I have been up in the house for 10 months, and my wife bought me a Traeger for my birthday. And yeah, let's just say, like the church people say, God is good, but all I can say is ribs are good, and but not for my waistline.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Yeah, we won't at all. 40 pounds I gained. Anyway,
got that COVID weight.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to get back to my old fighting weight. So you are a very talented. You are exceptionally talented at promotion, at production. So do you do all the production for the band also? Do you have a producer or?
Well, for Monster is all me producing it. That's what I love doing. It's probably of all the things that you can do, for me, defining the sound of anything that I'm working on is just a huge part of it. It's what I love. It's why I actually left playing in a band to be a producer, a pop producer for several years. And so Monster for me was not just about sort of the issues-based songwriting. It was also about getting back to producing, exclusively producing the music. So in American Jet Set, I ended up producing the first EP, but then we wanted to move it more into a live sounding, to make it more live sounding, more, I don't know, what's the authentic, because I tend to produce things. I tend to make things polished and because I have a pop sensibility about how I produce. But so we decided to go with the producers that had done a ton of work with some amazing bands. He worked with SR-71 and a variety of other folks. So we got in the studio, we recorded what is called Saloon Rock Whiskey Pop. That was the last album we put out. And
that's my jam too. I was gonna get to that. That one is my jam. On that,
Yeah.
Is it a full album or is that one just the EP?
It's a long EP, but we call it a record because it's the longest thing. It's the longest thing we got, so we're calling it a record for the sake of that.
That is my jam right there, and the title of that one is the actual title of that one is I keep wanting to call it Saloon Rock Whiskey Pop. Never Be Goodbye, if I got that right.
That's the last song on the record. That's the ballad. Yeah.
I love that one because it's just the band. It's
Yeah,
just the band all singing on Saloon Rock Whiskey. I love that
yeah,
one, man. So,
yeah.
but it's funny you mentioned that. I wanted to touch on that as well. Look, I would describe to anyone who's watching right now who knows Ian and wanted to check him out, show him some love, but haven't actually heard the music. And if I'm wrong, stop me.
Yeah, yeah. Go
You
ahead.
have you have a your sound. I would say you have a little bit in your voice. I think young Ozzy, but the band and the material with American Jet Set, definitely a Motley Crue kind of
Hmm.
hairband '80s kind of feel,
Yep.
which is where you mentioned earlier with the '80s rock. I mean, because you've got Walk in Contradiction, which is kind of every hairband in the '80s had the anthem to the femme fatale, to the good looking girl that everybody wanted to get with, but she just
Yeah.
the wake of guys destroyed in her wake. Um, to Golden Nines, where that was kind of it's kind of a rock band anthem like Golden Nines. That's the kind of the song if you all had more time to play and gig in other venues would be the song that when you start playing it that everybody just loses their mind because that's the one that and Never Be Goodbye. Those two songs that everybody would be singing along with.
Mm.
Kill the music and be like, y'all sing the chorus. You got thousands of people singing, "Smooth Rock with-" so it's I definitely get that feel. That's the feel that I get when I listen to with American Jet Set. With
Yeah,
the
that,
music
that
that I would
that
American
whole
Jet Set.
that whole record was meant to be. Yeah, well, yeah, Jet Set. So, just in general, it's funny that you draw the Ozzy comparison because I don't know when it was that when someone first said that. We never, I never thought of it at all because yeah, I've listened to Ozzy all my life, but it's not even on my radar in terms of an influence, vocally. And I'm just really not a good singer. So I never really, I only really ever think of the direct influences on me.
Mhm.
And so someone actually likened my voice to Ozzy, and I thought that's weird. And then after listening to it again, I'm like, yeah, I guess I can hear that a little bit here and there. But yeah, you're not the only one to say that. That's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
definitely like a young Ozzy at that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, bro. You really couldn't draw the comparisons. Have you taken a good look at
I,
your promo? Have you taken a good look at your promo pic with the eye makeup? Come on, man. That is
well,
classic Ozzy.
well. So the funny part, no, I was afterward, after being kind of called out in that way a couple of times, I started hearing it in songs, especially in Thousand Ghosts, which is on that same record.
Hmm.
That opening of that song sounds very Ozzy. So, 100%. But you're dead on with the band in general. I think when we went into the band, when we went into the whole project, we had this idea that we wanted to sound like and look like a band that's been around for 30 years that you just had never heard of yet.
Right?
And that was the entire thing. We didn't want you to ever think we were a local band. We wanted you to feel like we were a national act you just didn't know existed. And all the bands you just mentioned, were all on our sort of wish list for we kind of want to sound like this. So we use those as templates as a way of drawing influences and pulling them into the songs. But sure, it was Poison. There's a lot of Poison on that record, the one you're talking about. There's always a Crew reference at some point or the other,
Oh yeah.
and
I
and
could
that.
I could definitely see you. I could definitely see Jet Set killing a remake of Smoking in the Boys Room.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're huge Crew fans. I don't think there's ever a moment where one of us isn't talking about the first record, the second record, or the third record. So yeah, it's always a Crew conversation.
Yeah, so tell me more. Wow, you actually went right into one of my next questions. What what is like outside of what we talked about? You you encompass uh it's like don't want to say cornucopia and I don't want to say mishmash, but you have several different styles, like a saloon rock whiskey pop. There were several different styles of songs. If you because if you a lot of the bands of the '80s, they either went boom, this is what we're doing and this is where we're going. Like I want to say Van Halen, especially during the David Lee Roth years, they were like,
Yeah.
real heavy. Let's go boom, 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 boom. And then you had groups like Poison that could be they could go with a dance tune, or they could hit you with the "Every Rose Has Its Thorn." So you
Hmm.
guys had this particular EP, lot of different. You kind of hit on all 8 cylinders in this, because you had a ballad, you had a band anthem, you had the ode to the ode to the woman about town, as politically correct as I can put that. So is there any one style in particular that you would say that you favor more than the other, or
No, I think collectively that record, to me, because it is a long EP, the way I kind of look at that is like if you had someone's full record, if you had, say, Faster Pussycat, if you had their full record, but you stripped out the parts that you probably would skip through, to me, that's what that Saloon Rock record is. It's like the best of the songs we would have put forward for that record if we had them. And I think that they might seem disparate in style, but to us, they felt very connected because, starting with, the record starts with the Cowboys kind of riding into town, and then that opens right up into that bar anthem, and throughout that whole thing, you can feel that sort of Western rock and roll. Some of it hits on some ZZ Top at different
oh yeah,
times. There's all kinds of weird things that connect that thing from beginning to end, and then of course it leaves you with the ballad and the anthemic part of that, where people are walking off, then the riders leave, the train leaves, and then it kind of wraps the whole thing up. So yeah, there's definitely just some different styles in there, but we've definitely connected it through by way of any number of things that are unique to our band.
well, I honestly can say that it is I hadn't even considered that. And I've listened to it several times, but I hadn't even considered the fact that you were kind of telling the story from start to finish, which is another thing that was huge in the 80s, and even more so, it started bleeding over into pop and R&B and hip hop in the 90s, where you kind of have an intro and there's a theme that follows along the album, and then then there's a closeout. So it is masterfully done, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Very
that.
masterfully done. Um, and one of the things that I admire about, what was it that made you, when you did American Jet Set, that said, we want to do, we're gonna get into this next project in a minute. We spent the first half
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
gonna be
course.
talking about American Jet Set.
No, it's all good.
What was it that made you say, we want to bring back, and you're probably the first musician that I've run across in about that time frame you mentioned, about 15, 20 years, that says, let's bring back guitar driven rock.
Well, like I mentioned, there was a rock resurgence. I didn't know about it though when we started it, so that's kind of an interesting piece. Maybe we were just feeling it like everybody else was, that it was kind of missing from the world. I mean, I still think it is. And you've had emo and a bunch of different guitar oriented music, but we wanted to do just fun music. We wanted to do music that you weren't thinking about. It wasn't a bunch of depressing nonsense. It was just, let's just turn everything up and play. That's kind of what we wanted to do at the time. And at the beginning, it was probably just going to be a sort of passion project. But almost immediately after we got into it, we were like, well, let's go play live. And then that's when we found out, oh, wow, all this stuff is actually going on right now, to kind of push this back into the mainstream. There were a lot of bands, Greta Van Fleet and a couple of other bands that were sort of, leading the charge on sort of classic rock, I'll call it, for lack of a better word. And we just sort of jumped on the coattails and were, taken off. We love it. It's a blast every time we're on stage. So I don't know if we're bringing anything back as much as we are just, performing for ourselves most of the time. But people absolutely love this music. Not just ours, but every time you go to a show, people are reacting to that music because they haven't heard it in forever, and it's a
Yeah.
blast.
I mean, and there's a huge demographic that's been, the two biggest demographics that I say have completely disappeared in terms of music popularity is rock is first, and then R&B is second. Now, I'm not talking about
I know what you mean.
but like I'm not talking like with R&B. I'm not necessarily talking. I'm not talking about Drake. I'm talking about the Boys, the Men, the Jodeci's, the the '90s.
Sure.
The night for me, I love all music, but I'm definitely an R&B guy. I was raised on the Philadelphia sound, the Motown sound.
Hmm.
The Isaac Hayes and the Barry Whites and the Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes before he broke off and did the Teddy Pendergrass thing. Uh, I miss those days, especially during the '90s. There was an explosion of R&B groups. I mean, you could throw a rock and hit an R&B group. You had your 112, your Boys to Men, your Jodeci's, Jagged Edge. They were everywhere, and all of them could sing. Silk, I forgot about Silk and H Town, but and then over time it just kind of it devolved into a lot of solo acts, and then from there, I mean, you listen to an urban station. If you want to hear an R&B song, you have to listen to um, like a WHUR, Howard University Radio, just to get that. And rock is the same way. I haven't heard rock on the well, honestly, truth be told, haven't listened to a lot of radio lately, but you don't hear rock
No.
unless you're in the grocery store and you hear it on the Muzak.
Well,
You listen to the classic rock station.
there's two things I think that happened. What's really interesting is that Christian rock actually ended up filling the void of that sort of missing, I'll call it that sort of Daughtry-esque rock that was out in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of filling that void on some level. But the other thing that's, now just irritates me is that everything starting in around, I don't know, 2012 became a hodgepodge. Everything got stuffed into one song. So you can't just have a rap track or a pop track or a rock track. It's got to all just be everybody, every person that's on the songs, like 5 different artists shoved into one song constantly. I'll call it the era of the collaboration,
Oh,
right?
you mean like Nelly and Tim McGraw,
All that. I mean, I'm kind
or
of
even the single artist, what's Little Nas X and Billy Ray Cyrus.
yeah, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that we've let go of all these styles as unique styles, and then we're trying to serve all those audiences in these little bites in parts of songs, right? And it's just frustrating because there's so much more to that music than just the little nods they try to make in these collaboration tracks just don't get there.
Yeah, I mean, rock music is incredible by itself. Pop music is awesome by itself. Some of it is a little too bubblegummy for me. Listen, this is guilty pleasure admission here. I was aware of the K-pop movement, but I wasn't tracking any of the music
Sure.
until that one song popped up on the phone commercial for the sale.
Yep.
I think it was. And after I'd seen the ad about 800 times in 3 days, I said, well, let me, Shazam this and see who this is. And I was like, oh, BTS. And the next thing you know, now I've got Dynamite. I've got Dynamite in my playlist. But but the thing is, it's all awesome by itself. It doesn't necessarily, I mean, it's okay to have a little something every now and again. I think music is just suffering from business in general. I mean, how many times have you seen a successful product come out? And I don't know why the Thigh Master comes to mind for some reason. Like Suzanne Summers sold 2 million Thigh Masters, and all of a sudden everybody's selling something to squeeze your thighs together. Like
Sure.
you got a knockoff. And so you had that one great, huge collaboration, and all of a sudden the record labels went, we need to be the next this. Like, no, just find your next great, unique thing. So I agree with you 100% on that.
Well, what happened, I'm not sure when it exactly happened, maybe around 2008, maybe before, I don't know. But there used to be, you have people that were at a low level, like local artists, right? And then you had all the pop artists at the top. But then there was this huge middle class of musician. And these were people that were playing bars for a living. They were touring on their own and supporting themselves with record sales or T-shirt sales or whatever. And then because the way the labels changed everything because of streaming, that all changed. So now you have this very narrow band of top tier artists. You have just a huge, vast chasm of nothing, and then just an enormous third world of musicians. So that middle class of musician is kind of gone, and
Oh yeah.
so it's hard to step above the fray of this low tier.
I'll tell you exactly when it happened. Rebecca Black and Friday. That song was put out. That song came out on YouTube.
I know. I remember it.
And now everybody wants to be the next big thing. The Cash Me Outside. I've been recording music for how long have you been recording?
I can't even talk about this.
Wait. I'm just gonna ask you, how long have you been recording music outside of
Since I was 14, 1984.
I've been recording music for the same amount of time. So we're both the same age. So you're talking 52 years of recording music, producing, promoting, selling, gigging. 52 years.
Yeah.
One 13-year-old child goes on Dr. Phil and says, "Catch me outside. How about that?" And gets a 7-figure record deal.
Yes.
Because she has a viral video of her acting very not personable.
Sure, of course.
I'm trying to
my
be
soul.
politically correct on this here. I mean, look,
Yeah.
she was acting an ass. I'll say it. And got $1 million record deal. I'm like, do you ever see these instances and ask yourself the question, how is this happening?
You know, I used to when I before I sort of gave up on the idea that it was ever going to happen, and that actually happened when I was in 23 Days. You know, we toured the country. We were together for 10 years, and we were sought after by major labels. We did 3 or 4 showcases. 2 of them went for Atlantic. So we thought we were going to be signed. You know, we thought that's what was going to happen. But I remember that whole last tour leading up to the, through the MTV award stuff. I just knew I was over it, and I just didn't care about it anymore. So for me, I used to just get just so out of my mind about stuff like that. But now I'm kind of I made peace with it. You know, there is no way I could predict why that girl or any of the other people that are, performing music right now that don't have talent or whatever. They've got something though that sells, and I didn't. So congratulations to them. But no, I made peace with all that a long time ago.
Well, I'm not necessarily hating on. I'm not necessarily hating on her.
Sure.
It's just that how is the chance happenstance? This weird 1 in a gajillion chance happening to folks. It seems to, in this day and age, to happen to folks like, and who knows, maybe she didn't even want to be a rapper, but they came at her and said, "Hey, your name is big right now. We'll give you a record deal. We'll do boom, boom, boom." And now she's got this, she's huge.
Well, it proves that what sells is not necessarily quality music. And I think one of the things I try to tell my daughter, I'm a huge rap fan. And in my mind, there's good and bad music. There's good and bad rap. There's all this stuff, right? And what I try to explain to her is, outside of my opinion, is that there is good music, and then there is very bad music, meaning poorly written music. I may like music that is poorly written, but it does not make it good, right? And same goes for rap and all the other things, right? And what I call that other thing, it's not good, but everyone likes it, I call it cheeseburger music. So it's kind of like McDonald's. They can sell 1 billion cheeseburgers, but it doesn't make it healthy for you. It doesn't make it good. And you might go listen to a jazz record and get so much more out of it, but you might not want to listen to it all that often, right? So I think it's a matter of what people want to hear at that given time. There's nothing we can do about it. It's unfortunately will persist for as long as people make money at selling music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, you hearken back to the stories of acts that we loved that actually put out better than decent or very good music, and you hear the tales of how, even case in point, the Jackson 5, Michael Jackson dying and Michael Jackson passing away as quite possibly the largest music superstar the world has known in its existence, and how their dad was taking them around and they were doing talent shows and playing gigs, and Suzanne DePass, I believe her name was, from that was working with Barry Gordy, said you really need to see these kids, and he brought them in, and that's when you see the infamous video of uh, Mike doing the James Brown, little Michael Jackson doing the James Brown and singing "I Got the Feeling," and boom, now flash forward 50 some odd years, he's the hugest music star on the face of the planet.
Well, look at Beyonce. Beyonce, even, with her dad dragging her around and putting all that stuff together on his own. There was no guarantees and all that. They were just doing it.
Yeah. Oh, if you even want to look at the sports world, I don't know how big a sports fan you are. LeVar Ball, as of recently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, uh, we won't even get into it. Let's just say it's a guy with a loud mouth that people thought was annoying. They said he was annoying. The thing that made him famous was he made a video that went viral that said he could whoop Michael Jordan in the game of 1-on-1.
Oh no!
But here we are in 2020. All three of his sons are signed to good deals in the NBA. They're not bad basketball players. They're not. I don't think they'll ever be MJ, LeBron, Kobe quality players, but they're very good basketball players. And all of that notoriety got his sons into the NBA. Wow. I don't think they would have gotten that deep a look, but because he made that much noise, that happened. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning into the live and you've been watching for a little bit, season 2, episode 2, Indie and Unsigned, Mr. Fingers, the Mad Karaoke DJ, back on the airways with my homie from Fairfax from the Fire Station number 3, or the Old Firehouse Grill, or Miller's Tavern, or Stone Cold, or Dharma, or Crossroads, or whatever.
Oh my God, Dharma!
Go there. Kaine MacGregor, yeah, Dharma. I think when I first moved to Virginia, it was either Dharma or Crossroads, and I think the name had changed by the time I started working there. But
that goes a long way.
God.
90. In fact, I remember playing the show there at 94, and you had to actually crawl. We had to load everything in through the back window, which there's now a door there. It used to be just almost like a bay window. You had to crawl through to take all the gear onto the stage, which the stage, by the way, was like that big.
It's not much bigger than that now.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
Where was the back door?
Where the door is now.
Oh, you mean the back door by the restrooms?
Yeah, all that it just looked all different in the back. But yeah, you used to load in through that window, put everything down on the floor, and then kids would just sit all around on the floor while you played. It was a weird experience.
Oh, wow.
It was definitely more of a coffee shop vibe at the time.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, yeah, look, Harry, if somebody is watching this Fairfax person, tell Harry that he is getting a lot of pub today.
That's right.
Here on the show. Harry, when I come and see you, I want another one of them prime rib sandwiches, please, sir. You got to eat it hot, though. That's my problem. I would order it and then be gigging, and by the time I got to eat it, it was cold. And bring the ribs back. Do you remember when they had ribs?
I don't. The last time I went there, he changed the whole menu to it was like a Middle Eastern menu. The last time I went.
Yeah, but you've been going there long enough. You were there before me because I didn't move to Virginia until 2000.
I was probably drunk.
At one point, he had ribs on the menu, and when I tell you, they were better than Famous Dave's. They were better than Famous Dave's. They were better than whatever the other barbecue chain was that was floating around. They were delicious, and I was heated when he took them off the menu. But he replaced it with a prime rib sandwich, which I also love. So
there it is.
Can't complain. So we have been talking for about 40, almost 50 minutes about American Jet Set.
Sure, yeah.
I want to talk about your new stuff because that just dropped today. So tell me about the Monster Project, man.
Well, it's been going. It actually, I think, launched 2 or 3 weeks ago with the first single, which was called Brave New World.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing came about because, of course, 2020 was just a crappy year for everybody. And I just became frustrated with social media because, with all the election and all the things that were going on, my views sit geopolitically somewhere between the far left and the far right and a whole lot in the middle. And just communicating with anybody online about issues became a nightmare because I would get attacked for having an opinion. And it just used to drive me nuts because, people talk about the fact that, we have free speech, but we really don't. And the reason is that the government doesn't have to do anything about your speech because everybody does it for you. You got this mainstream view, and if you deviate from the mainstream, well, then all of a sudden you get painted with the crazy brush. Right. So I stopped communicating and sharing my opinions, and so I just wanted a vehicle to do that, but without being peaceful about it. Something that I could put out as a piece of art and talk about the way I felt about the sort of dystopia that I kind of feel like we live in. And so the first song, Brave New World, I put out, I want to say it was about 3 weeks ago. And that was sort of as a response to, I think a lot of people think it's about the virus, but it's really about authority in general, and the idea that we sort of give our power over to these people that call themselves an authority, and without any real idea about what they're actually what they're telling us, what they're doing, without checking them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that song was written about that, and then Apocalyptica for me was a bit more of a biographical song, even though it's all written in the metaphor about this fictional city called Apocalyptica. The idea is it starts with this 8-year-old boy growing up in this city that has these massive walls, and he's in complete awe of these walls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of pride and patriotism around these walls, and he has this fascination with growing up and protecting them, being a guard on the gate of these walls. So he does grow up. He becomes part of the military. He protects them. Then as he gets older, he starts to realize that it was all sort of a lie, that these walls were really just meant to keep the people in and to control the people. And then that, of course, ends up leading to the revolution that happens at the end of the song.
Did you by chance ever see the movie Aeon Flux?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah,
Remember the
well,
giant cloud that was circling around the city?
yeah, well, any sort of any dystopia that you're watching on film, rings true to that storyline. I
Mm,
mean, 1984 is a lot like that, because obviously the story there is that all these wars are supposedly happening around this country, and the story constantly changes. So over time, no one really knows what's happening. No
lo-
one's really ever sure of what the real story is, but
yeah,
they know they're embroiled in war, so they have to be good.
yeah. I mean, you could throw a whole bunch of Logan's Run.
Oh yeah,
You could even throw Demolition Man in that mix.
all of them.
Every single
The
one.
Matrix,
Oh man,
you know.
Your Last Chance, Neo. After this, we're coming back. Love
That's
that
right.
movie.
That's right.
I don't think that went very well, Morpheus. It went exactly as planned. How do you figure? We are still alive. I love that movie,
There
man.
you go.
I love well
There
that
you
I did like bits and pieces of like 3 different movies, but still, it's in um both of them beautifully done. Now tell the folks where they can find. Oh, I just did. You can find it at www.wearemonsters.com. Also, if you want to follow Ian, you can follow him at We Are Monsters. Is that correct on Twitter and IG?
That's it. Just leave out the last E.
Yeah,
There's no E.
monstrs.com.
That's it.
We are monstrs.com. You can go to the website, you can download the music, you can read the whole backstory, you can pick up merch, and then you can follow all the developments on the Twitter and the IG. Brother, I got to tell you, I don't know how you do it. You must have TweetDeck or something like that. The reason that I say that is because I got this whole thing. I don't know. You know what? I'm congratulating you on all of your successes with the with American Jet Set. Zagnif Productions. Obviously, the Zagnif is a what do you call it? A palindrome? No, not it was a palindrome. Where you run it backwards, where you run a name backwards, like Oprah's Productions
Yes.
on
Yeah.
Harpo. So Zagnif Productions. That was where we got the name for it, and we literally just filed articles of incorporation. I think
Oh, congratulations.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's all official now. Something I should have done a long time ago, but hey, better late than never. And this whole concept for bringing the show back, as soon as I signed the articles, I got home and was telling my wife and showing her stuff. I said, we need to bring the show back. She said, well, go ahead, baby, do what you do. So here we are 3 weeks later, four
well.
weeks.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, man, absolutely. I was gonna hit you up. You would have been on the show 3 years ago if we hadn't moved to Oklahoma. But then at that point, you weren't at where you are now.
No,
So
absolutely.
everything in life happens for a reason. I actually have a question for you from the chat, and my wife posted it. And I'm sorry, darling, I just got around to looking at the chat. It says, during your travels, what city stands out to you as the best show that you've had or ever enjoyed the most?
The best show. Well, I think it also depends on what it meant to you at the time, I guess. My favorite show I've ever played in my life was likely opening for Tom Kiefer at Tally Ho, which is in Leesburg.
Oh, that's a
Um,
great venue.
that was they're just you can't beat that from a performance and experience side. But I think 23 days when we were playing and touring, we played a place in Chicago when we were playing to nobody. And I mean, it was a rough time, getting all over the country and playing to nobody, but we were trying to struggle through and make it. And we played this place called Reggie's, which is, I mean, it's enormous. It's like the 930 Club of Chicago, and we had no idea what we were walking into.
30 Club. They're talking. You making me feel old, bro.
Well, and then when we played Reggie's, though, that night at our merch table, we played this big place. We just had more people at that merch table than I'd ever seen at a merch table in my life. So then, lastly, the last experience was the last show of that MTV Awards tour was at not Wild World. What's it called here? Six Flags over in PG County. And so playing at that place and coming home to that show was just awesome. Here we are, we're playing to like 1,000 people, and there were just these boom mics flying up in your face, and taking a video, and then of course later seeing our video up with the MTV logo in the commercials and stuff. Pretty amazing. So
Do you
I'd
still
say
have a copy of that video?
I know it's online somewhere.
Oh, okay. And I would be posting that. I would, if I had something like that, that would pop up in my feed about every 2 years. Remember this? I was on
Well,
TV.
you graduate to these new moments that you're more proud of, and I think that's kind of where I am with that. That world is long gone to me, but it was a great experience. So I'd say to answer the question, best experiences were at home with Tom Kiefer, Reggie's in Chicago, and the Whiskey in Los Angeles.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. Now I want to jump back to the Monster Project because we kind of touched on it for a couple minutes and got away from it with the question.
Yeah.
I noticed something as I was reading through the notes, reading through the bio and the development of the project. This is a family affair.
Well, at
You
least
got-
So the idea of this project, and the even reason why it's called Monster, is because I wanted, even though it's primarily me, I wanted to have anybody that wanted to be a part of it with me, anybody that wanted to join in to collaborate on the music. I liked the idea of multiple people with different points of view that came together to put out a song, talking about any number of issues. So the idea was that it was creating a monster by all the people that would, sort of a sum of its parts kind of idea. So even though it is just me, I like bringing other people into it, just so there are other points of view that are putting forth these notions. So the first person I included was Brian Kimes. He's been playing with me for years, and he lives out in LA. And I asked him if he would, excuse me, if he would contribute with the bass parts, which he did to both songs. That was awesome. But the second song, Apocalyptica, was particularly amazing because my wife and my 3 kids actually sang the gang vocals that happened at the end of that song.
That's what I was talking about, the family affair.
Yeah,
I was like, yo, he's got his family on his joint? Okay.
yeah. And I was really happy that they did it because the song is pretty intense from an emotional point of view, and it's not a sentiment. The idea of singing about how your country has kind of done you wrong isn't necessarily a topic that people want to align themselves with. But what I love about all the collaboration is that it's people that might even think differently than me that were happy enough just to be able to put that message out there, even if they might not even agree with it. And I think that's really what the whole project really at its core is about. The idea that we should just be able to talk back and forth with each other without arguing and screaming and calling people kooks. Let's just have conversations. And I think that's what this is.
Absolutely, sir. I think you summed that up in about 30 seconds than most people could in a 4-page Facebook post, which I generally tend to skip by anyway. Matter, even if they make perfect sense. All I had to say, man, is you have been I say undercoverly. The lid was off once American Jet Set, which is that thing, but you've been undercoverly hiding all this talent from me, bro, and I have been nothing but impressed with everything that you have brought to the table.
Well, thanks, man.
And I look forward to looking down the road, and even if it's not a big time thing, and even if you just get a liner note or a credit on something, huge something. I look if I look up and I see your name on in the Grammys is a nominated songwriter of the year or
That's
something like
hilarious.
that. If I see your name, I I hope when you get interviewed afterwards about this, because you know that every radio station in Northern Virginia will want to be in DMV will be interested in having you on. Then and just
Yeah.
be like, look, man, appreciate y'all having me on. 10 years ago, my man Fingers, me and him was karaoke boys. He had me on, so y'all late to the game. Y'all should have peeped. But
100%.
no, man, seriously, I have enjoyed everything you put out. I think my wife and I are gonna put that on, and we could probably order some food, sit around and get fat and sassy, and listen to some American Jet Set and some Monster
All right.
and chill out. I did tell the people where else, if there's anything I missed, where they can find you.
Everywhere online. I am at wearemonsters.com, but more than that, you can check out my band American Jet Set at facebook.com/American Jet Set. And hopefully we'll be back on the road and you can catch us wherever you live.
Okay. Well, listen, I got a couple more short questions for you before we
Yeah.
jump off here. Like, we don't necessarily have to jump off at the hour mark, but I know you got stuff to
No,
do
I'm
all
good to
that
go.
stuff. But uh, let's just say, and this is a question I think is going to be my a question of every interview. Let's just say, uh, all the stars align. You got all the money you ever need for the remainder of your life. What do you do musically? Like, what do you do as far as music is concerned? What are some things that you would like to do if you had unlimited? That's it. If you had unlimited resources, what would you like to do with your music, and what direction would you take it?
That's an interesting question. Uh, and this is going to sound like a crazy answer, and probably I'll get painted with the kook brush again. I am anti-wealth. So what I would likely do is I would likely give most of that money away and have enough to live on. But I think that musically I've done most of what I wanted to do, and I don't really know that you know other than excuse me, other than paying my way into things, which I'm kind of against. I can't imagine getting any more out of it than I'm getting because
Gotcha.
at this point I'm kind of for me, I'm creating the art that I want to hear, and no, really, I'm not really concerned really about what other people think of it so much anymore.
I got you. Well, I wasn't necessarily saying that you become wealthy, but let's say someone with
Sure.
unlimited
Oh, got it. Yeah,
uh, somebody, it's even if it's somebody else with unlimited resources, just says, "Hey, man, you don't have to get famous. You don't have to be a superstar, but
yeah,
whatever resources you need to do what it is you want to do, they're at your they're yours to use." That was more
yeah. I
like,
think I would love to have a studio that was fully equipped on its own. You know, if I'm able to put all the money into music, I'd likely want to build a studio freestanding where others could come and record and do what I'm doing now, but just make it available to people that wanted to come and collaborate on music that for the purposes of art.
gotcha.
Yeah,
I got you. You and I line up a lot in that chain of thought, because you can't see it behind me, but I've got my keyboard set up over here. I've got the
mhm,
sound foam and the condenser mic,
yeah,
and this where I'm sitting is kind of uh control room central with the board and the laptop and everything.
right,
So, I was talking with the wife about maybe closing this room off and doing the same thing, but or at least a full for me would be a full multimedia. So I could do, because I like to do little.
yeah,
I'm
like
not
building a TV studio almost.
yeah, I'm not the kind of person that wants to do TikTok videos and YouTube videos to get famous, but I like being creative. And
Sure.
I would love to be able to have that available to me, where I could have one giant room dedicated to the music and another room where I could roll in and have, change wardrobes and doing those videos where there's six of me, doing some Temptations or singing one of my original pieces, something like that. You know.
Yeah.
And now the other question that I wanted to ask you, I should have asked you this earlier in the interview, because we're kind of winding down now, but this actually did worked out perfect, because last question kind of ties into this one. What have you found is the most difficult part of independently producing and marketing, and like, so you basically everything is out of pocket for you guys, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. You know, we talked to a couple of very small labels that are well known in the genre that we're in, very small, that wanted to put out a single here. Or, you know, they actually came to us recently and talked about putting something out in January. But the thing is, it really doesn't matter because on your own you can put out and distribute music as long as you have the funds to do it, right? And so if we produce it ourselves, we can make the most money back as people are purchasing it. T-shirts are a great example. You know, we produced and purchased all of our T-shirts, and we make 100% of the profit as a result. So in terms of the most difficult part, I'd say it's the glut of music that exists online that people have to sift through to find you. Um, because we talked about that big sort of third world of musicians that exist.
Right.
In that third world, there is a hierarchy of quality, but you don't get to see it because it all exists at the same spot. How many people can be on Facebook? You know, it used to be with the MySpace, at least, you could quickly go through, you know, tons of pages every day and decide whether you like something or not and follow it.
Hmm.
But Facebook's not built for that, right? And so there is no place to go that's sort of like a global radio station to hear a whole bunch of stuff. So it's either YouTube or whatever, which is not built the same as MySpace was. And I
Right.
hate thinking about MySpace being a superior product, but for music, MySpace was a huge benefit.
You know, I never really got into the music thing on MySpace. It was just well at
Oh
that point.
man,
I never got that far, and maybe I should have, but at that point, I was singing with it was a duo. The two of us were doing
sure,
music, but I never got that far. I didn't realize the potential for the music until after everybody jumped ship and came over to Facebook.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I think, and that's a hard thing for any musician. You hit it right on the head. The internet. Who knew some almost 30 odd years ago when the internet became available for public consumption that would essentially change the face of how people are able to market their products.
Or how do you watch? How you watch a movie? How you listen to music? How you even
Oh yeah.
experience music?
I
Right,
never would. You couldn't have told me back when I was a sophomore in college that one day if I wanted to watch a movie that I wasn't going to have to go to a theater
right,
and by
right.
well of course back 30 years ago then too, and this is us dating ourselves again. The matinee, the regular show was $4. The matinee was $2, and the popcorn, I think the large was $1.50.
Mm.
And now you have to spend God, you almost have to spend a car insurance payment to take a family of four. It might be a car payment
Oh,
if everybody gets something just to go to the movies with the tickets and the
yeah,
popcorn and the soda. You couldn't have told me that back then. You couldn't have
yeah.
told me you could be able to record and package and design and because I like you, one man show, write all the music. And you have a band. You had the benefit of a band. I write all the music. I got to produce it all. I got to do all the tracks, do all the singing, all the marketing. So that was. I'm just curious. What is the most that if that was what is the most difficult thing? Just getting your music out there. Because I mean, not only that, you got to deal with copyright. Because you, it's not just for those of you that are interested in getting into business. It's not just, hey, I recorded a song, I'm gonna put it out and hope people like it. There's also making sure your music is copywritten. If you got a logo, getting it trademarked. If you run a business, you got to get your business license and do your taxes and declare. You got to declare tax on the merch that you sell. If you make over a certain amount, X, Y, Z. It's a show. And you have managed, sir, to navigate that very successfully in the time that I have been aware of it. And I thank you. I consider it a privilege to have had you on the show today. And I would
Oh,
love.
thank.
I want to open this. I just know that the door is open for you to come back and join us when everything opens up and things start moving again. I'd love to
Yeah,
have
man.
you back and kind of get a comparison then versus now.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been an amazing experience here. I mean, I haven't done a official interview in over a year, so it's kind of nice to get back to business.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what we're here for. I want to reach out and find people all over the place and say, "Hey, look, nothing's moving right now. So let's get your face out there so people can at least You know what I'm saying? So it's somebody that's never heard of you before that might be watching this or watching a replay. And by the way, if you'd like to catch the replays are available, will be available at youtube.com/Mr. Fingers. They will also be available at the Indian Unsigned Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Zagnif Indian Unsigned. That is ZAGNIF. Indie and Unsigned with the A spelled all the way out and Unsigned. You can find it there. You can find the podcast at Podbean. I will give you the link for where to go and find the podcast, sir, once the show is over. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we do appreciate you for tuning in to today's episode, season 2, episode 2. We gonna go out. I normally go out with my theme, but we gonna go back out with Apocalyptica the same way we came in. Ladies and gentlemen, Ian Kaine MacGregor. Ian, my friend, take care of your family. We'll talk. Stay with me. We'll get up after we go off air. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we appreciate you. Stay tuned next week when my guest is Fredericksburg, Virginia, stand-up comedian and a personal friend of mine. I call him nephew. He calls me uncle. I don't know if that's a sideswipe at my age, but I'll take it. Brandon Moore. We'll catch you next week, folks. Take care.